Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this first RIX virtual forum, Keeping IXPs Connected. Just a brief introduction about myself. My name is Flavio Luciani. I am a member of the RIX Forum Program Committee, and I'm going to moderate this session. We now have a really interesting panel about routing security at internet exchange points. So how IXPs play key roles in contributing to a more secure and resilient internet. The content of this panel is based on the information that we gathered by the route server filtering survey that we have submitted in the last weeks. So thank you to all of you who helped us by answering the survey, the poll. Your contribution has been really significant. If you have not yet responded, you can find the link of the survey on the webpage of the RIX Virtual Forum. Please, it should be useful to get more data available in order to have a more complete picture possible about the route server filtering inside of our community. By the way, during this panel, I will show you some poll results that will help us to drive the discussion. I still remind you that in every moment you can use the Zoom Q&A box if you have some question, if you have some comment, we will ask the question on your behalf. Also, please write the name of the panelists if you want to ask a question to one of them. Okay. Now, I would like to introduce you all our panelists. Today with me, we have Rob Lister from LONAP, Michalis Oikonomakos from GRIX, Ondrej Filip from Nix.cz, Andrew Owens from NapAfrica, and Massimiliano Stucchi from Internet Society. Welcome, and thanks for accepting our invitation. Okay, so just for having an insight from you, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and to describe your IXP environment, especially focused on route server implementation that you have in place, software used, infrastructure, if you are present in more than one location, and especially focused on the current level of filtering provided by your route server as well. I would like to start from Rob Lister. Please, Rob.
Hello there. I'm working for LONAP. LONAP has about 223, according to my screen, but 223 members. We are based in about 9 different data centers throughout London, and we use 2 root servers, both running Bird 2 at the moment. We are using only Arista switches for the peering LAN.
Okay, so have you finished, Rob?
And the level of filtering that we have is pretty much what everyone else does, which is RPKI with IRR database fallback. And it works pretty well.
Okay, so thank you very much. Now I would like to ask the same to Ondrej.
So hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Ondrej Filip. I'm from Nix.cz, which is an exchange point based in Prague, but also Bratislava and Vienna. We currently cover 3 countries. And the setup, from the point of the security doesn't differ much from what Lister has described. Rob, sorry. So we have 2 route servers. Both are based on birds, not surprisingly. We also do support RPKI filtering, so the invalids are filtered out. We also have RDB filtering based on AS sets, which is also, I think, the industry standard. Of course, we check prefix length. If next hop it goes to the same peer that announced it, we filter marchants, Bogon ASNs. Also, we check if the first ASN in the BGP path is equal to the peer's ASN. And also, we filter a tier 1 AS in the BGP path prefixes unless that tier 1 has a peering with the route server. So I would say pretty standard set of filters. And the root server can also filter some prefixes, but it also supports remotely trigger black hole filtering. And also we have a hardware-based DDoS protector, so you can reroute some of the prefixes to that, and then it does some cleaning or at least traffic shaping, for example, for you. So that's another service that we offer to all members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ondrej. Michalis, hi and welcome.
Hello, nice to meet you, Flavio, once again. Good afternoon to all participants. I am Michalis Oikonomakos. I am the head of the Greek Internet Exchange, which is run in 2 separate IXPs, one in Athens in 3 interconnected data centers, and one in Thessaloniki, the second biggest city in Greece, with presence in 1 data center. The IXP in Athens has around 53 members currently, and the other one in Thessaloniki has 21. We have more than 95% of our members connected to our route servers. We run 2 route servers in the IXP in Athens and another 2 instances in Thessaloniki. Both are based on Bird 2. As the other participants of the panel already described, we are also heavily filtering RPKI and RRDB. We enabled RPKI sometime during July 2020 without any major issues noticed as we did that. Under that, we were pretty confident, technically wise, when we made the decision to enable RPKI invalid drop, since we have gained valuable experience over the years in such topics, as we have a very early involvement in RPKI together by wearing our Greek NREN hat, GRNet. Lastly, we are also an early months participant and supporter.
Good to hear. Thank you, Michalis. Andrew Owens from NapAfrica. Andrew, welcome.
Yeah, thanks very much. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew from NapAfrica. We are in South Africa, in Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg, but we've ended up serving the majority of sub-Saharan Africa. We have around 480 networks connected at our exchange points. We also have two root servers per exchange, all running Bird 2. And our filtering is RPKI and IRR. So we don't consider the IRR as a fallback. Obviously, RPKI doesn't have path validation yet, so we use a combination of the 2.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, it was an interesting first round. I would like also to introduce another panelist that we have today with us, and he is Massimiliano Stucchi from Internet Society. Hi, Max, and welcome.
Hi everyone.
Good. So now we can go through the first discussion point. Thank you very much for this description about the environment that you are that you have introduced ourselves. Okay, based on the poll result, in this chart you can see the most common root server support requests from infrequent to very frequent. It should be interesting to hear from you which is your experience on that, especially focused on workload and the impact that these requests have on your daily activities, and especially still focused on route server filtering support. We can still start from Rob Lister.
I think I would agree with that, actually. I don't. I think we're just supporting the same stuff we've always been supporting, and in my mind, I don't think adding our PKI to the mix has really caused us any additional support overhead. We've had a few questions. I think one good thing to come out of it was we redid all of the documentation and put it on our website, and so we have some quite good and quite clear instructions on how to set it up. Yeah, we haven't seen a massive support overhead. We still get the odd session configuration max prefix exceeded, things where we need to intervene sometimes, but I would agree with that.
Yeah. Ondrej.
Very similar to Rob, actually. We have like roughly two requests a month, not more. So really, definitely nothing that makes us overloaded in this regard. Usually those requests are question why my prefix is filtered, what happened, and when we clarify what happened, then the issue is usually solved, because those guys who are actively, checking their own prefixes, they usually also know how to fix it. So nothing really complicated for us. The other side of it is that we also proactively call some members, but I think that's going to be a topic of some next round. So yeah.
Okay, great.
Not really.
Yeah. Before Michalis, I would like to ask also to the audience if you want to share your experience in terms of support to your members in terms of filtering on route server. You can use the Q&A box if you want to ask a question, or if you want to also share your experience. Michalis.
Yeah, Flavio. I would like to differ from what Ondrej and Rob just said, but I highly doubt that I am able to do so. On our environment, the workload regarding those issues is pretty standard. It's pretty average. Not a big deal, as Ondrej and Rob already stated in Nix.cz and LONAP. We do mark any rejected prefixes with large BGP large communities, as proposed by EuroIX. So it's pretty straightforward for any given member to understand why its prefix is being rejected via using the looking glass. Most cases, even if there are very few, are come from customers that exceed the maximum prefix point, and some rare occasions we have some rejected prefixes related most probably to RPKI or RDB filtering. Moreover, as a last note, we have extensively documented any filtering policies performed on our route servers and any BGP communities that apply in our setup. So in that context, that helps a lot our members in order to understand what kind of filtering is going onto our route servers.
Okay, so thank you, Michalis. Andrew, what was your experience on that?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say particularly that enabling RPKI invalid drops has caused much additional support. We still see the traditional prefixes being rejected because IRR is not up to date. We're in this interesting situation where, if you have 96% of all of the ASNs connected to the exchange peering with a root server, you tend to be seen as a router or sort of as an ISP type of thing. And so prefix drops do cause a lot of support for us, because you start seeing a lot of asymmetrical traffic and things don't happen as expected. So that's still our biggest point of support.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments, any question? They are very, very welcome if you have. So thank you very much. It was really interesting. For now, we can go through the discussion number 2 while waiting for some question from the audience. So still based on the poll results, this pie chart shows us how much support participants have required to IXPs for enabling RPKI and for creating ROAS, from not so much support to a lot of support. I think that this chart could tell us something more, especially referring to network operators that they are implementing the routing security best practices. I would like to ask you, and it is maybe interesting to hear from you, which is the situation in terms of adoption among your members, I don't know, in your country. So what are you experiencing on that in terms of routing security adoption? Rob?
I think there's been quite a lot of uptake. I haven't yet looked at the graphs for this year, but we've had quite a strong uptake. We seem to be going through this second cycle now of don't forget about your IRR data, because people seem to set up the ROAs and say, oh, I'm done, but then forget that you have to maintain your AS sets, and the stuff in the IRR database is still kind of important, because we still need that AS set to be there, so we know which ASNs to start looking for in the first place. So we've had one or two people go, oh, I've got all my ROAs set up, why are you not accepting my prefixes? And then you find, oh, you haven't updated your AS sets and things like that. But generally it's been quite good. We also signed up to Manners, and we put a little logo next to all the members that have also signed up to Manners, and we try to encourage that where we can. So it's been quite good, and we push it wherever we can. And there's some members where they are now sort of really trying to enforce this best practice. So, you know, it will get to the stage where we're not going to peer with you unless you are in Manners or you have RPKI enabled, that sort of thing. So but there are some members that are really pushing for that now.
Okay, thank you, Rob. So what's happening, Ondrej, in your environment, in your XP?
So from this point of view, we have basically two groups of members. You know, we have a special club called Phoenix, which is a club of companies who decided voluntarily to have much higher security standards. And those guys are also appearing in a separate VLAN, but also appearing with the others, of course. But currently it's like 26-7 companies, and those guys are in perfect shape, you know, because that's the requirement of Phoenix. So they have all ROIs. They you know, very quickly respond to any security incident, basically. Validate and also support DNSSEC, IPv6, everything you could think of the, you know, everything which is the current state of art. So those guys are in perfect shape. In total, I think roughly about 20% of all membership had some issues with one prefix or something. You know, sometimes we filter something, and so those guys kind of react. But sometimes it happens that, you know, some prefix must be filtered and it doesn't comply to a policy. And we have about 10 peers which have, you know, quite a lot of prefixes that are invalid, some of them even more than 50%. And here's some dilemma we have, because of course if we would loosen the rules, we could get more traffic, right? And saying the number of traffic flow in exchange point, that's also the most significant number. But we decided to rather take care more of security, so we rather filters those prefixes out. But we have mixed feeling, of course. If you lose some traffic, it's bad, but if you do something for security, it's good. So as I said, about 10 peers, usually big international guys, have some issues. And also this differs. Usually the local ISP, if they have some issue, they communicate with us. Of course, the local language helps, but they usually fix it quickly. There are some big international companies that it takes some time and they are very slow. But there are also enterprises, for example, some banks where for them, changing a configuration takes centuries. So some members are okay, especially local ISPs. Some enterprises are, not so perfect, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ondrej. I think later, the next discussion will be about the initiative that we are providing to our members in order to improve the number of not only managed participant, but in general, the number of network operators compliant to the routing security best practices. But yeah, so which is the situation in Greece, Michalis? What are you?
I would say that we are in a pretty decent position. There has been a lot of effort during the past years by GRIX and by the Greek network operator group as well, in order to have all involved parties in Greece sign the ROAs and set up proper IRRDB records. I think that those things are pretty much covered nowadays. Of course, there are cases that some things has not been updated for quite some time, but in general, I would say that we are in a good position. That includes all big eyeball networks. Same applies for most of the international players that are connected to our exchange, as far as we have noticed. On the other hand, as we've noticed in many of our members, dropping RPKI invalids inside the network, it's not always possible. It's not always the case. It's not always their top priority, but most of them are slowly working towards that. We, as IXP operators, try to communicate such best practices to every member and help them as much as we can in order to adopt those best practices. Just to give you a rough idea about what can someone experience and notice in our route server environment in the Greek Internet Exchange. As I told you, we have around more than 95% of our members connected to it. So I would say that most of our members are benefiting from the level of security of routing security that we offer through our route servers. And in that specific environment, we've noticed that less than 0.3% are prefixes that actually are RPKI invalid.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, you mentioned the biggest eyeballs in Greece. Sometimes I don't know if you check on Twitter or some announcement about that some big carriers is RPKI compliant and they are compliant on routing security best practices, and I think it is a good example also for the small and medium-sized internet network operators around the world. And what about Andrew?
Yeah, so if you're looking at RPKI specifically, if you look at the stats, at the moment 90% of Afrinic prefixes are unknown. So RPKI are unknown, and only about 9% are RPKI valid. At our internet exchange, if we looked at the root servers, everything on the table, 30% of that is RPKI valid. Okay, so that a lot of that is the international networks that are there as well. In terms of security best practices in general, you must remember that Afrinic itself didn't have IRR functionality for a number of years, and so when we started doing IRR filtering at the root servers, we had to push everybody onto the right database, and so that caused a bit of a mess, because now you have a lot of legacy stuff that's still sitting in right, and the networks that were around at that stage, either don't have logins to go and fix it, or just don't have the appetite to move that information onto the Afrinic IRR. In terms of what we see in adoption, the enterprise market is coming up quite quickly. It's getting a lot stronger, getting interested in peering. Because enterprises are usually tied by a lot of red tape, they appreciate, having to go through the process of creating ROAs and creating AS sets and that sort of thing. Because to them, it feels right. It feels like something that should exist in an enterprise space, because if you put the word security on something, they're going to do as much as they can about it. Smaller ISPs are the same. So, newer, smaller ISPs are the same. They want to try and do things as properly, as correctly as possible. I think in terms of adoption, where we are struggling is the very large networks that have been around for a very long time. One of the other things I just want to mention specifically to RPKI is we've come across a number of networks that say they're not going to do anything with RPKI because their vendor equipment doesn't support it yet. And I think that's a massive misunderstanding of your equipment doesn't have to be able to support RPKI to create a ROA. And I think that's one of the benefits of pairing with a root server, because if I look at our market specifically, a large majority of these 480 networks that connect to us run equipment that just doesn't do any sort of RPKI filtering, and so pairing with a root server gives them that functionality, from the start.
Yeah, interesting. Always about routing security best practices and the adoption of them. We all know that there is this initiative called Manners, mutually agreed norms for routing security. Massimiliano, can you give us more information about that, and what is the situation in terms of adoption of those best practices around the world?
Manners is an initiative that's at the moment led by the Internet Society, and the goal of Manners is to increase, of course, routing security, but not only routing security across the world. The goal is to also help foster more collaboration between networks to fight all these issues with routing security and with the internet as a whole. So Manners is a set of actions that should be taken by network operators, and this is in its first form. 4 actions that are about global collaboration, so posting, creating ROAs and creating route objects and AS sets in the Internet Routing Registry system. It's about filtering, so using this information to filter the data, as we have filter BGP announcements, as we have heard already from the other panelists as being best practice. Then we have anti-spoofing, and the last one that I always forget is coordination. Also, making sure that everyone has access to all these information. Now there is this initial set of of recommendations, of actions. If an ISP follows, not all of these are mandatory. Anti-spoofing, as it's more complicated than the others, is it's not a mandatory action to follow. Operators can request to be included in manners to join the community, and then they are shown on the website. They become part of the manners community, and they can show the others with the logo, with their presence on the website. They can show that they are part of this initiative. Now, along the course of time, there have been new other documents being prepared, and it's one is specific for internet exchange points, where the actions are slightly different, but still reflect what, for example, Robert mentioned, that they, as an internet exchange, they try to suggest their members to follow manners, to be part of the community, and that's one of the specific actions that are shown for internet exchange points, together with the helping all their members in implementing it, maybe provide more guidance. And altogether, this manners helps foster more and more routing security. There's also a more recent document that is manners for content delivery networks. And then there's a new one that's in the works that is manners for vendors. And one particular thing that I wanted to say is that Flavio was part of a group of people last year in 2020 who participated as ambassadors, because we, as Internet Society, we try to do as much as we can for the community, and we have maybe taken on board, in this sense, some important people from the community to help us spread the word, spread the message. And Flavio was a very successful participant in that effort.
Thanks. Thank you.
So the adoption, just one last note, this is about numbers.
Yep.
We have about 500 members as a whole. The biggest numbers come from South America, actually, and that's most likely due to how NICPR in Brazil is spreading the word, is doing a lot of capacity building about manners, together with I have wonderful colleagues in the region, and then so the numbers are for South America. We have 189 participants out of 500, but then Europe is second with 101. These are some of the latest numbers, and then we have 63 out of all these 510 are internet exchange points, of which 26 are in Europe. So these are still good numbers, but we could do better, and we always try to improve and convince more people to join the community.
Thanks, Max. Thank you very much. Very interesting. So yeah, the message could be, if you are not manners compliant yet, maybe is it time to think about it. I remember that not so many RIX members are manners compliant. And if you want to know, if you want to get more information about the initiative, you can check the website, manners.org, or you can chat me, you can chat Max, you can ask ISOC to have information about the program. I think the IXP program, and then Max, you are going to explain better what the program is. It is a good reference, it's a good resource if anyone who wants to improve the security level of its own infrastructure. So thank you very much, Max. If you have, just a still remind, if you have any question, we are very glad to answer. We can go now through the discussion number 3. We spoke about, and we mentioned many times, that not so many network operators among our network community are compliant with routing security best practices, as well as manners participation. This chart shows us that there are two different drivers that drove the implementation of a PKI around IXPs. The first one is encouraging more members to use route server, and the second one is improving confidence in route server. I have many questions in my mind, but one question comes, and it is maybe the right one. So what initiatives do you offer for promotion of, first, how to use route server, and especially focus on filtering? And the second one is what initiatives are you offering to your members for promotion of routing security best practices, and maybe also the implementation? I just put in this slide workshops, events, trainings, documentation. We spoke about, we suggest manners, and so on. Rob, can you, I would like to listen to you.
I think we do a mix of encouraging best practice, encouraging manners. We also incorporate a little bit of routing security and manners into our training courses when we do them. COVID has meant we haven't been able to do as many training events as we would like, but we definitely encourage it. It's in our training materials. And I think a lot of participants go into the training feeling a bit overwhelmed, and they're quite happy to see that it isn't actually complicated. A lot of people sort of go, oh, phew, actually, that's nowhere near as complicated as I thought it was going to be. I just need to go and set up a rower, I'm done, sign up to manners, follow the instructions, and I'm done. In network engineers are kind of, as soon as you start talking about encryption or certificates, it sort of go, oh no, I don't want to get involved in that. It's going to break everything. So it's quite encouraging that on our training courses, the reaction we tend to get is, oh, is that all? Okay, I'll go and do that now. And it's good. And we do encourage people to join manners, as I've said, and it, you know, we're slowly encouraging it, and we hope to get more members on board with it. It's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Ondrej.
So we don't do much like trainings currently in the exchange points. However, we promote mostly using root servers, and we of course try to explain the advantages of root servers. Also, the fact that we offer some additional services on root servers, you know, should be some kind of promotion. If you can use, for example, the DDoS protection there, that's a motivation for you to join it. And when those guys, you know, are connected, we are trying to explain them that they should sign their prefixes using arrays, and also we are members of manners, of course. But the most work is done through the promotion of Phoenix, because once a member is part of Phoenix, then his, or you know, the member's level of security is much higher than even what we are talking here about. So we are more concentrating of growing this group, and we hope to grow this group to certain percentage of the whole membership. And those guys, you know, they are usually, they have very good knowledge of security, and they are very well connected among each other. So if they lack some knowledge, they usually are able to get it in the group. So that's a way how to promote the security features.
Okay. Yeah, and Michalis.
Yeah, Flavio. We do pretty standard things as using tech mailing lists among our members and try to promote best practices there. We also try to do the same on every members meeting we held for our members in GRIX. As a last note, we have integrated in our process when we onboard a new member to promote such best practices and at least suggest them to sign their ROAS and update their RRDB entries. Of course, we do plan in launching events and workshops specifically targeted to routing security, especially for our smaller members, smaller networks connected to the exchange. Hopefully pretty soon, given the current circumstances with COVID, which hasn't permitted us to do so in the last year.
Thanks, Michalis. And Andrew?
Yeah, thanks. Very much the same thing. We do a lot of tech training events. We call them the tech days. And we've had events with ISOC and Manners. We've had Afrinic in to come and do training on RPKI and actually showing members how to sign their prefixes. We also have had a number of router vendors or hardware vendors to come in to show the user base how to implement best practices and security on the actual hardware themselves. And one of the things is, if I look at the graph that you've put there, one of the things is obviously improving confidence in root servers is a very good thing. But what we found as well is if those of us running root servers are the only ones that are doing it, it kind of defeats the purpose. And so a lot of the training has gone into to get people to appreciate those best practices, because you can have all the security you want on your root server, but at the same exchange point, networks can set up bilateral sessions and do no filtering, and then you kind of end up in the same place. So I think important to note here that it's not just about root servers; it's about security awareness.
Okay, we have a question from the audience. The first one. And it is about the awareness of the importance of manners and RPKI. The question is, how can we spread the awareness of the importance of manners and RPKI? What would be the most effective awareness campaign? I don't know if some of you want to answer this question. I have just one, two, three considerations on that. The first one is manners itself. And not only internet society, but the community, that we can spread the word out about manners, and this is a good way to spread also to raise the awareness of the importance of RPKI and routing security best practices in general. What would be the most effective awareness campaign? It is a very good question. Also, still, the community is doing many initiatives and things on that. Maybe, in my opinion, we, Internet Exchange Points, we can do more on that, because we have the largest community of network operators, more or less. The smaller one, the bigger one, but we have many network operators that they are our members, and they also have a good example, because we all have implemented RPKI and security mechanisms on our route server infrastructure. We are giving a good example on that. But I think that we can do more. We can do more in terms not only initiative, but we can be more closer together, just to improve the number of network operators that are compliant on routing security best practices. I don't know how we can do that. Maybe I would like to take the advantage of this panel just to suggest the community if maybe we can create a sort of working group on that, and we can try to figure out how, which is the good way for the community, the Internet Exchange Point community, to spread the awareness of the importance of the routing, not only RPKI and manners, but the well-known industry routing security best practices. I don't know what do you think? I would like to ask also to you all panelists, if you want to answer this question, and if you have some comment to make. Yeah, Ondrej. Also Rob, yeah. First, Ondrej.
I just wanted to kind of nod to you. I think, you know, we are in the position of people who can spread the word. You know, we all usually have some members meetings, and I think this topic is absolutely appropriate for those meetings. And what you know looks to me work best is to do some post-mortem analysis of some security incident, and let's say, for example, the YouTube hijack, you know, the famous one, and then say, you know, guys, this wouldn't happen if everything would be proper sign and if we all would validate. So that's probably the best way how to engage the members, saying them, you know, this wouldn't happen if everybody would validate arrays and if prefixes will be signed. So please do it in your networks and do not forget validation. So I think we don't need to make any sophisticated campaign. Here's a lot of people, here is a lot of exchange points, and you are all central institutions in your countries or areas. So if you spread the word during your members meeting, I think that's enough. And that's pretty big campaign because you are targeting the right people, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ondrej. Rob, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I think just maybe 2 points. It's a lot of members that would come to our meetings are the ones that are quite tuned in on it and would do it anyway. And it's how we get to those kind of hard to reach ones that don't come to the meetings, and it's very tricky. But I do think we should push it also as it's another marketing thing, if you like. It's another quality thing to say on your website, we meet the manners best practice, same as if you had, say, ISO 27001 accreditation. It could be a part of that as an additional thing. You can say we are ISO 27001 security, whatever other certifications that you have. You can say yes, and we also have manners best practice. And here's what that means for you as a customer. Our network is more stable. We're not likely to suffer from hijacks, all the things that you already mentioned. How do we get to those hard to reach ones? I don't know. I don't know whether we end up with a 2-tier exchange. It's a very interesting idea, this sort of Phoenix. Here's a completely different exchange for only known goodies. I don't know whether we'd get to that stage, but it's a very interesting evolution.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Max.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to add to what Ondrej said. If we look at all the material that's available out there to show people how incidents are happening every day, let me how do you say, present a little bit of what we do at ISOC. But there is we have the manners team, of which I am part-time, has a whole blog about all the incidents, and whenever there's a major one, we try to write sort of a post-mortem or an analysis of what happened, and that can also help you. But then we'll see, in the course of the discussion, we will see also there's there's an added value about joining Manners. That is, you get access to what's called the Manners Observatory. I will tell you more about it later, but that's an added value where you have an interface to see how many incidents you've had related to your ASN, but also in your country or in your region. So that is also something you can use to tell your members you should join. And then that's it. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Max. We have, I don't know if you have other comments on that. Maybe not. We have another. Oh, yeah, Andrew, please.
I wanted to comment. One of the suggestions was, definitely we are, as internet exchanges, in a position to push that message, but it's also up to that community to start influencing other members in the community. And I give just an example, if you looked at peering DB, for example, for a long time we struggled to get people to join peering DB because they just didn't see the point. And it was only when the large CDNs started insisting that they will only peer with you if you do X, Y, and Z, and that changed everything for us, sort of overnight. So there is a measure of the community actually influencing themselves.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Any other comments? No. Okay. We have another question from the chat by Alexi, I think. If somebody in your or maybe it is a comment. Yeah, no, it is a question. If somebody in your country gets targeted by a root hijack, restart the awareness campaign right then, and they're using that as your example case. I don't know if you, Any comments? Okay, thank you very much. It was very useful to hear from you something more about which is the best way for promotion of routing security best practices and what we could do. What about manners? Because documentation and not only because also presentations at LAX, also IXP manager implementation. So among documentation, among others, is one of the best resources to get information about and to learn more about route server and PKI and routing security best practices in general. So manners, I think, in my opinion, but I think it is a common opinion, it is one of the important resources of knowledge in terms of best practices. So the question I would like to ask to you, Max, is how manners can help IXPs in promotion and implementation of best practices. Before you mentioned the IXP program, and I think it is a good point of reference for anyone who wants to implement routing security best practices and filtering on route server infrastructure. But I think that manners can give us more in terms of promotion and implementation.
Yeah, yes, we do. So let me take a step back and tell you, we have two, so at Internet Society, we have 7 projects we work on, and you can find all of them, the descriptions on our website. 2 of them are one called InfraComDev, which internally we call the IXP project, where we help Internet exchange points in being started in different parts of the world, because not everyone is lucky where they already have an Internet exchange point in their country or in their region. And then we have the Manners project. Now, under the IXP project or InfraComDev, what we have, for example, is there soon is going to be public for everyone, a course that's called IXP 2.0. What is that about? Well, it is not the second version of the Internet Exchange Point course, but it's the course that answers the question that is, then what? You've set up a switch, you've set up a community, but then what do you do with it? And it's about, what you need to set up as additional services, and one of them are route servers. So this is one way we help in also getting together the Manners project and the InfraComDev or IXP project. But focusing more on Manners, we do have lots of materials published. We have a course, we have labs that are accessible. We actually have some public instances across the world, but one of them is here where I live in Zurich. So if you have questions, I can answer them. So people can log in, do a test setting up manners in an environment that is either Cisco or MikroTik, and then Juniper is coming up. We're working on a new Juniper implementation for the exercises. We have an implementation guide that's available, and actually, I can tell you that Flavio is also involved in that now, in improving how the implementation guide is. That gives you, it's a document that gives you direct instructions on what you should do to implement the different manners actions. And so there is plenty of material, but on top of that, we're always happy if you approach us and if you ask us to help you with a training course or a presentation or anything we can do to help network providers or IXPs or anyone else implement manners as much as we can.
Oh, thank you, Max. Yeah, we don't have so much time left. I would like to go through the last discussion, and yeah, tools for members. Yeah, tools for members are considered still based on the poll results. Very important to improve route server and security. So the question is, do you offer any kind of monitoring tool to your members, or in case, are you planning to do that? Or in general, what do you think about tools as an improvement of routing security? Rob Lister.
Yes, I think this was definitely an interesting question to come, an interesting result to come back from the survey, because what this is telling us is our PKI in and of itself is going really well. We don't particularly need better or more software to do our PKI, but what we do seem to need is more tools for participants so they can see what's going on, and more reporting and monitoring tools. Now, beyond, of course, IXP Manager, which gives you a good insight as to, why your prefixes are not being accepted. It's possible to log into that, and you can see exactly why we're not accepting the prefixes, or if we are accepting it, you can see it being accepted in Looking Glass. But I guess the next stage of that is a bit more active alerting going on, so that if something is invalid or we start to see a prefix that's been rejected, some kind of more active alerting, which is not currently something we do, but I'll leave that to other people to elaborate on that.
Great, thank you, Rob. Ondrej.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my view is not very different from Rob's. We provide, of course, two tools. One is very manual. We every week check the number of invalid prefixes, and we are trying to contact the members. And we have, of course, Looking Glass that highlights the invalid prefixes, which is those Looking Glass. It's called Bird Spy, so it's an open source software if you want to use it, developed by my colleagues at Nix.cz. And also, if I have the floor for a second, I would also like to tell you something about new feature inside Bird. That's a new version of Bird released, I think, 4 days ago. So it's very new. It's version 2.08, and in this version, Bird automatically routes channels when there is some RPKI change. So that means, for example, if some prefix changes from invalid to valid or vice versa, then it's automatically, removed or inserted into routing tables. So I think that's a feature that probably was the most wanted among the exchange points who use Bird and use RPKI filtering. So just to remind you that there is one more tool for you currently released. We use this version in one of the route server in Nix.cz. So it was tested in developers lab by Bird developers. It's also running in one instance in Nix.cz, so it seems to be stable. So if you can, please test it and try to deploy it, because that would probably help to speed your root server reacts to those RPKI changes. So that's from my side. Thanks.
Thank you, Ondrej. Michalis.
That's a very nice feature, Ondrej, and thanks for bringing it up to the community and for your excellent job on BERD. Yeah, in GRIX, we pretty much employ same things as Ondrej already mentioned. We are providing the looking glass for near real-time monitoring, and we also let our members know about whether any prefix of them is being dropped due to being RPKI invalid. We also extensively use of large BGP communities for tagging, as proposed by GRIX. And lastly, we have some internal monitoring tools which are aggregating stats from our route servers, just to have an overview about what's happening regarding prefixes on a higher level, not in a very detail. Regarding number of announcements, number of drop prefixes, invalids, unknown, RRBB filter, and stuff like that.
Thanks, Michalis. Thank you very much. And yeah, the last one, Andrew.
Yeah, I guess the problem with being asked last in a case like this is that everybody else has already given the answer that I would have given. Yes. We also use IXP Manager, so a lot of the features in IXP Manager are considered as near real-time, monitoring tools, with the looking glass and that sort of thing. The feature that was mentioned now by Ondrej is great, and I think also something for me. I think AS path validation in RPKI would also be a nice to have outside of the tools.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, and thank you all of you. If you're just a very short consideration about tools in Namex, the exchange where I work, we have in place a monitoring tool, a real-time tool. It is Bgp Alerter, if you want to, and it is a really good tool to offer to members in terms of routing security, because this tool can send alert in case some of the member is victim of an hijack or a root leak or visibility of loss of prefix or RPKI invalids and something like that. It is really useful, and if you want some other information, drop me an email. I will be very happy to share with you our experience in terms on this real-time monitoring tool. It is very useful, in my opinion. By the way, I have another question to Massimiliano, and because we are speaking about tools, and I know that Manes provides the observatory, and the question is, what is Manes Observatory and how is it useful for network operators and internet exchange points as well? Max.
I have already briefly introduced it. The observatory is a website, is a tool you can use. Your data starts showing up once you join Manners, and what you can see there are all the information about the status of your ASN or your ASNs, and then you can see if there have been any incidents related to your ASN, if you were part of an incident, and then you can see how that compares to the country where you are, or to the region, or to the continent where you are. So it is an important tool to have an insight into how safe your routing is and how you're protecting it, and see how that also compares to other operators in the country or other operators in the area, in the region, and so on. So I'll try to be brief. I know we don't have that much time, but if you have questions about it, just feel free to approach me, and then I can point you in the right direction.
Great, thank you, Max. And thank you. Well, I think we don't have so much time left. Thank you all for attending the panel. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our participants. And I think now it is time for a short break, coffee break. I think 10 minutes, and we can, and see you later. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Flavio. Thank you. Thank you all.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.